Hello children, I welcome you all to another interesting episode for EduSat. Now in this particular episode, we should be very sincere all throughout. Why children? Why am I asking you to listen sincerely? Because in this particular program, we will be discussing MCQs from non-detailed stories in your English syllabus, particularly for the purpose of revision for matriculation examinations. Examinations are knocking at the door. I hope these MCQs will help you revise and be more thorough with your non-detailed stories. Now, let us look at the various chapters and the various MCQs that I have set for the purpose of your revision. Now, the first chapter that we have in your non-detailed section is The Village Judge. Now, I am sure all of you would have read the story thoroughly. All of you would be very thorough about the characters in the story and what the story wishes to convey. So, let us look at the MCQs one by one. Be very careful when you tick the correct answer, because read the question thoroughly, and if you are confused, take your time, think clearly. Do not encircle the wrong option. Okay? So, what is the first question that we have? The punch is nobody's friend or enemy. Who said this? In this chapter, The Village Judge, who said that the punch is nobody's friend or enemy? Whether it was told by the village head, Jumman, all the above, or only the aunt? The answer is the aunt. Now, you all know about the various characters in the story. You need to remember what each character has said about the other. Questions can be asked from anywhere. So, like in this particular first question, this sentence, the punch is nobody's friend, it was said by the aunt. Okay? Algu was selected the main judge by whom? Okay? By whom was Algu selected the main judge? Whether it was by Jumman, whether by villagers, the village head or the aunt, the answer again is the aunt. Now, one evening the panchayat met dash. Where did the panchayat meet on a particular evening? We have been given choices. What are the choices? Under the open sky, under the tent, under a banyan tree, or simply under a tree? The answer is under a tree. There is no particular tree that has been mentioned. There is no mention of open skies or tents. So, the answer is under a tree. After the departure of the aunt, Algu decided to go to the punch because his dash. So, what happened after aunt departed? Algu wanted to visit the sarpanch. Why? Why did he want to do this? We have the options. Whether it was his heart swelled, his mind pushed him forward, or he had a feeling of self-defiance, or his conscience awakened him. The answer is his conscience awakened him. Okay? Now, in the fifth question, at first Algu hesitated to say the honest thing because he dash. Why did Algu not say the correct thing? Why was he not honest initially? So, what are the options? Frightened to tell the truth, feared to lose friendship, fear of self-prestige. The answer is he feared a quarrel. Algu particularly was in fear of a quarrel, hence he was not ready to be honest initially. Okay. Moving on to question number 6. Son, you should also come to my panchayat for a short while. In this given expression, the term son refers to whom? To whom does the word son refer to? Jumman, village head, none of them, or Algu? The correct answer is Algu. Now, like I said, children, you have to be very thorough about the names of the characters. What is the role of a particular character in the story? What each character does, and what is the sentiment behind the story that is being conveyed to you. Yes, if you remember all of those, then you can be very comfortable, or you can be very to the point when you answer these MCQ questions. Clear? Okay. Now, The old woman ran from village to village with a stick in her hand to dash. Now, the old woman, we are referring to the aunt in question. Why did she run from one village to another? She was in search of a perfect decision. Now, to help her, to advise her, to support her or to sympathize with her, why did she go with a stick in her hand from one village to another? To support her. The woman was old and weak. She needed a stick to support her while she travelled from one village to another. Clear? When the old aunt couldn't bear the threat of Juman and his wife, she threatened to call dash. Now, like we know, the old aunt, she was in a lot of sorrow. Juman and his wife didn't treat her well. So, what did she do? What did the old aunt threaten Juman and his wife? To call the police, to call the village head, to call the public, to call the punch is the correct answer. Not the village head, not the public, not the police. The correct answer is the punch. Juman and his wife treated the old aunt how? How did Juman and his wife treat the old aunt? What are the options? Rudely, friendly, kindly and tenderly, harshly and rudely. So, how was aunt treated by Juman and his wife? She was treated very harshly and rudely. Clear? Juman persuaded his aunt to dash. Give money to help him, give him some help, share the property, transfer the property. The correct answer is transfer the property. Now, children, when I tell you that we are doing MCQ questions, there are a lot of questions that each particular chapter can have. But since because of the time limitations that we have, we will be discussing 10 MCQs from each particular chapter. Yes? But I am sure all of you would have followed the previous telecasts of EduSat where we have discussed with you these chapters at length. Remember what has been taught, note down the important points, note down the explanations, be thorough with your text. This is the only way where you can crack all the MCQ questions correctly. Clear? Now, like I said, we have all the non-detailed stories put up for you for MCQ revision. We just revised the village judge. We will move on to the next chapter. What is the next chapter that we have? The beggar. Clear? Now, again in this chapter, you have various characters. You need to be thorough with their roles. You need to be thorough with their names, their spellings, what the story wishes to convey. Let us look at the MCQs one by one. Okay. Who is the writer of the story, The Beggar? Now, the particular story, The Beggar, by whom was it written? Was it written by William Shakespeare? Was it written by Marie Curie? Was it written by Albert Einstein? Or was it written by Anton Chekhov? The answer is Anton Chekhov. All the other options are wrong. The correct answer is Anton Chekhov. Now, who are the characters of the story, The Beggar? Now, in this particular line, we wish to know about the characters. This particular question where we have been asked who are the characters. Now, look at the names. Look at the names that have been displayed on your screen. So, who do you think the characters are? The characters are Sergey, Olga and Lushkov. Clear? So, who are the characters here? The characters are Sergey, Olga and Lushkov. Now, which story tells us about the dignity of labor? Children, like I said, you need to know about the author, you need to know about the characters, their roles, the sentiment behind the story and also what the heading wishes to convey. Each chapter, each story has a heading. We also need to know the meaning behind the heading. Clear? So, in this particular chapter, what is the heading? The Beggar. What does it wish to convey? It tells us about the dignity of labor. Okay. So, which country are the characters from? In this chapter that we have been discussing, where are the characters based? In which country are the characters based? So, the characters are based out of Russia. They are not Indian, they are not German, they are not Chinese, they are all Russians. So, the characters are based out of Russia. Kind sir, have pity. Who is sir here? Now again, this is a line from this non-detailed story. Like I said, you have to be thorough with each line. Kind sir, have pity. Who is the sir here? The sir in question, is it Pavel? Is it Olga? Is it Lushkov? No, the sir in question is Sergey. So, the answer will be Sergey. Now, in the next question, what do we have? For how many days did the beggar have nothing to eat? 4, 2, 5 or 3? So, the correct answer will be 3. For 3 whole days, the beggar did not have anything to consume. Now, we are talking about characters. So, who was Sergey in the story? Who was Sergey? Was he a doctor? Was he a farmer? Was he a teacher? Or was he an advocate? The correct answer is Sergey was an advocate. Clear? How were the beggar's eyes? In this particular story, the beggar's eyes have been described in detail. So, how were the beggar's eyes? Were they fresh? Were they red? Were they pale? Were they dull and drunken? The correct answer is dull and drunken. The beggar's eyes were dull and drunken. Naturally, we saw in a particular question in the previous slide that he had not eaten for 3 whole days. So, his eyes appeared dull and drunken. I am obliged to by circumstances. This is again a line in the story. By whom was it said? I am obliged to by circumstances. Who said it? Was it the advocate? Was it the village judge? Was it the farmer? It was the beggar. It was the beggar who mentioned this particular line, I am obliged to by circumstances. Where was the beggar working as a singer? Now, as we read through the story, we get a little background about the beggar as well. We come to know that the beggar was working as a singer. So, where was he working as a singer? Whether he was at the opera, whether he was at the movies, at the theatre or the Russian choir, he was working as a singer for the Russian choir. Like we know, the story is based out of Russia. So, the beggar was working as a singer in the Russian choir. Now, children, one thing that I would like you all to remember is read the text thoroughly line by line. Non-detailed stories have lots of questions. Why? Because each line can be framed into a question. Each sentence can be framed into a question. The lines spoken by the characters in the story can be framed into a question. So, you will get a lot of questions when it comes to non-detailed stories. My advice to you would be read the story line by line. Then go to the glossary section in your text itself. When there are difficult words that you come through, please go through the glossary section. You will find the meaning of the words, then again come back to your text. Read through the text multiple number of times. If you do not do that, you will not be thorough. Questions can be asked from any nook and corner. The examiner can set questions on the characters, the examiner can set questions on the author. Questions can be set from anywhere. So, prepare yourself accordingly. We have discussed 2 particular non-detailed stories. The first was the village judge and the second is the beggar. Okay? I am sure all of you would be getting a knack of how questions are being set as of now. Just do not neglect the chapter like if I just go through the question and answers, I will be thorough. No, do not do that. For the purpose of MCQs, you need to be thorough with the entire chapter. Yes, you need to be thorough with the literal meaning of words, you need to be thorough with the opposites, you need to be thorough with the question answers. So, again we will be discussing about another non-detailed story. I am sure all of you are sincerely paying attention. So, children, we have discussed about non-detailed stories so far. We have discussed about the village judge and then we came on to the beggar. Now, let us see what the next chapter contains or what the next segment is. The next segment is a very interesting chapter, which is a tiger in the house. I am sure all of you all would have read this chapter and enjoyed it thoroughly, but like I said, you need to be very thorough about the characters, the roles, the intent of the story, the title of the story and what it wishes to convey. So, let us have a look at the MCQs. What is the first question? Who was Timothy? Okay. Who was Timothy? Was he a bear cub? Was he a kitten? Was he a calf? Or was he a tiger cub? What will be the correct answer? The correct answer to the question will be a tiger cub. Timothy is the name of the tiger cub. Clear? Second question, why did grandfather accompany the party? I am sure all of you all are very familiar with the story. Yes. So, we have a role of the grandfather. It is a very central role. Why did he accompany the party? Because he was bored, or because he loved forests, because he knew the Shivaliks, or he wanted to go for a picnic. Why did grandfather accompany the party? Because he knew the Shivalik hills is the correct answer. Now, moving on, who discovered Timothy? Like we discussed, Timothy is the name of the tiger cub. So, who discovered Timothy? Whether it was auntie, whether it was uncle, whether it was grandmother, the correct answer is grandfather. It was grandfather who discovered Timothy. Clear? What kind of special quality did grandfather have? Boldness and courage, kindness, far-sightedness, empathy. Now, in this story, as you read through, you will come across the special quality that each character has. So, what were the special qualities that grandfather had? He had boldness and courage. Now, what was the diet of the tiger cub initially? What did the tiger cub initially eat? What did he consume when he was brought home by grandfather? Did he eat meat? Did he eat curd? Did he eat chicken, or did he have milk? So, the correct answer is milk. But remember children, when you go through the entire chapter, you will see that initially Timothy consumed milk, but later on his diet consumed, or the things that he consumed included chicken and meat as well. Clear? For how many days did the beggar have nothing to eat? I think this is again an aberration from the last chapter. It was 3 days. Children, this is another MCQ that we have from the beggar. This has somewhat been included in the tiger cub chapter, but it is from the previous chapter. Anyways, the correct answer to this option will be 3. Now, who were Timothy's companions? Who were Timothy's companions? A cat, a bird, a cow, a puppy and a monkey. So, who played with Timothy while he was with grandfather? Who played with Timothy? The correct answer will be a puppy and a monkey. Next, apart from grandfather, who helped in caring for Timothy? The gardener, gatekeeper, postman or a cook named Mahmood? The answer will be a cook named Mahmood. He was the person who cared for Timothy. Now, let me just give you a short idea about this particular story. A tiger in the house, it is about a cub Timothy who was discovered by grandfather. Grandfather brings him home, cares for him along with Mahmood. Timothy makes friends which included a puppy and a monkey. But as he grew older, Timothy showed his characteristics, the characteristics of a tiger. Naturally, you cannot keep a tiger at home. Ultimately, grandfather took him to a zoo and Timothy was left there. You cannot keep wild animals at home, can you children? But because grandfather realized that when Timothy was growing up, he became less friendly. He started killing chickens, fowl and other things all around. He would stalk people. Gradually, he might have been dangerous to the people around him. So, what did grandfather do? He took him and left him in a zoo. That is the story. So, on that particular story, we have MCQs based. Now, what was Timothy's favorite amusement? What do you mean by amusement? Form of play. What did Timothy love to do? Did he love to sleep or did he enjoy running, swimming, stalking people and playing? The correct answer is stalking people and playing. And the next question, what kind of change came over Timothy when he was 6 months old? He grew less friendly, he became more playful, he killed hens, he slept more. What will be the correct answer? Like he said, he grew less friendly. Clear? Now, the last chapter that we will be discussing today is a grain as big as a hen's egg. We have already discussed the village judge, we have discussed the beggar, we have discussed a tiger in the house, and now we will be discussing a grain as big as a hen's egg. Now, like children, I mentioned you need to grasp the idea behind the story. Clear? Why the heading has been mentioned as such, why the name of the chapter is such, why the title of the story is such. You need to be very thorough. Let us look at the MCQs in question. What did the children find in the ravine? What did the children find? Did they find a money bag? Did they find fish? Did they find pebbles? No, they found a grain of corn as large as a hen's egg. Second question, how did the wise men know that the object found was a grain of corn? Farmers recognized it, children recognized it, it was shaped like corn. No, the answer was because a hen pecked at it, they were able to know that the object was corn. What did the king do to collect information about the grain? He asked farmers, he asked his cooks, he read books, he asked wise men to collect more information. The correct answer, children, is marked in red. He asked wise men to collect more information. What did the king ask the peasant who came to his court? Now, the king wanted to know more about the object that was found in the ravine. So, what did he do? He asked wise men. They were not able to give him an answer. He brought a peasant to his court. So, what did he ask them about? The land where the grains in question grew is the correct answer. What was the physical state of the farmer who came to meet the king? Now, the peasant that has been described in the story, what was his physical state? Was he robust? Was he fat? Was he in good shape? No. In fact, he could hardly see and hear. Now, in this particular slide, what was the physical state of the farmer who met the king? Like we mentioned that there was a peasant who was brought to court. So, what was his physical state? Was he in good shape? Was he fat? Was he robust? No, none of these. He could hardly see and hear. Clear? Next question. Why did the king send for the peasant's father? So that he could take his son home, so that he could advise farmers, so that he could grow more crops. What will be the correct answer? The correct answer is so that he could identify the grain. First, it was identifiable that the object was a grain. How? Because hen pecked at it. Now, since the peasant in question who was brought to court was not able to give further information, they brought his father. Yes? So, why was his father brought there? So that he could reveal the land where this grain was grown, the techniques that the farmers employed to grow such grain, and to identify the grain in particular. Okay. So, how many questions did the king ask grandfather? Now, see, in this particular story, 3 generations have been described. Peasant, his father and his grandfather. Do not confuse. First, the peasant was brought to court, then his father was brought to court. Ultimately, it was his grandfather who was brought to court. Okay? So, the king asked questions to all of them. How many questions did king ask grandfather? So, grandfather was asked 2 questions. Clear? And what reply did grandfather give to the king? Farmers are lazy, lands are barren, there is no rainfall. Men in present times have stopped to live by their own labor. Option B is the correct answer. Clear? Men in present times have stopped to live by their own labor. Now, who are the 3 old men described in the story? The king's friends, the king's cooks, the king's ministers, or 3 generations of the same family? Like I said, do not confuse. The answer will be 3 generations of the same family. How was the lifestyle of the grandfather during his times? Unhealthy, meager, lavish, simple living with lots of labor. The answer would be simple living with lots of labor. So, in this particular story, what do we learn? We learned that during the grandfather's time, farmers relied on their own labor. They grew their own crops. They did not steal from people, and that was why they were healthy. That was why they lived a better life, and that was why they had a more fulfilling life in comparison to the people residing in the present generation. I am sure children, all of you, those of you who have paid attention to these MCQs will now know how they appear in the examination, how the MCQs come in the examination, and you will prepare yourselves accordingly. Thank you and all the very best for your examinations, my dear children.